Hello, all you beautiful people, and welcome back to 100 Days of Code with me, Lily Code. I hope you're feeling good because you're looking good. So, we're getting started here. That's my dad's line. He always says, "Oh, are you feeling good because you're looking good?" When you can't see people, but you are looking good. You're looking great. Hope you're feeling good. We're all in this together. Let's go. So, we're continuing on with our 100 Days of Challenge. I love that line. My dad's very funny, man. So we have our 73rd day in progress at the moment, and we're doing Sean Wassells' course, and his course is a nice short little course, a 4.5 hour course. Actually, I was calling it a 5 hour course yesterday. It is 4 hours and 26 minutes. So let's keep going. We're getting some great learning done in a very short amount of time. So bada bing, bada boom, let's go. Cool. So what we're doing at the moment is we are sending state from one component to another component. In yesterday's video, we used state within one component by using React's hook use state. And now we're going to pass state through different components. So let's do that now, which we should use reducer for. But let's just wait and see how Shaun is going to do this. So great. Cool. So we have our counter button here. So parents can pass props to their children, as we are doing here. And here is an app.js. We have the parent, and then this is the child. Counter button. And we're passing data down from parent to child. So React components have a unidirectional data flow. So you pass data from parents down to the children, unless we specifically child components can't directly pass data back to their parent. So here from counter button, we can't access the values within counter button unless we specifically set it up. But it can't pass data back up to the parent and tell it how many buttons has been clicked in the app.js, because it's a child of this, and the data flow is unidirectional from parent to child. So what we do in order to get the state out of the counter button component and be able to use it in other components is we hoist the state. And hoisting is just where you lift something up out, like you literally, oh, come on with me, I'm hoisting you out and we're gonna bring you off somewhere else. So hoisting is how we make this happen. We move the state up to a position where it can be passed back down to other components. Cool. So within our React component here, it looks like we're going to use state. So I'm sure he's probably going to go through some other methods as well. And normally I put the CSS imports at the bottom of the file, pick this up from Max. I think it's a great practice. So keep all of your file imports at the top, your React imports at the very top, your CSS below, just so as these get bigger and bigger and bigger, you can visually see what's going on. Because you'd be surprised how big some of these components can get in the workplace or, in bigger projects, either one really. So I've always found in work, the size of the components will blow your mind. So then we have to import use state here as well. So use state, and this comes in from React Perfecto Selecto. Cool. And now what we're going to do is in our counter button component, here we have our button click and our increment function. So we're going to move these, and I can get rid of this explanation. This was just saying what use state is. So in yesterday's video, check that out. I talk about use state for a while. I sort of go through what it is, how it's working, and why we have this array of 2 items. So check that out. So I'll remove that comment, and then we will move these, the state definition, and the function itself up into the app component. So we'll just get rid of the console log as well, because that was just there for different purposes, just to show us something yesterday. So now these can go into our app component. So here. Cool. And that's because when we're using a React hook, it must be used within the function definition. So you couldn't use the hook out here and declare use state out here. It has to be used within the function of the component that you are defining. That's part of the hooks. Which makes sense. You know, you're using a React hook, it must be in a React component. Cool. Cool. So now we have the number of clicks in our app, or button click. Let's just change this to number of clicks to avoid confusion. So this is number of clicks, and then this is set number of clicks, and then also I'm showing the wrong thing in my other component. So then where I'm showing number of clicks in counter button, it's not button click anymore, it is number of clicks, which is just a better named variable because it's actually the variable holding the number of times we have clicked that button. Cool. So now what we're going to do is, because this is out in our app, we need to pass this into all of the components that need it. So this is actually hoisting. We have hoisted the state and the function out of the component where we need it, and now we can use it across different components. So now we can just pass it into congratulations message and counter button because it's available to both of these components now. It's not down in the child. Cool. So we'll just pass this to congratulations message, number of clicks. Number of clickaroo, dee 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 doo. Number of clicks equals number of clicks. Cool. And we will do the same for counter button because both of these components are going to need this, and we just need to handle that prop coming in now in our counter button because currently we're not expecting any props in our counter button, but we did set up our congratulations message to take both of these in yesterday's video. Check that out if you want to see the beginning of the use state for this video. Cool. Yeah, so now in our counter button component, we can just expect this prop. So to do that, you can do it many ways. This is one way. You can just destructure it straight away, coming into the function and say we're expecting number of clicks. Number of clicks. And now we have access to that. What you could equally do is say you want to accept some props coming in. And then here we could say props.number of clicks, which is why I sort of do like Sean Wassells' approach to this that he uses all over the place, because it's nice. We can just, rather than having to say props dot something, we just specify, mamma mia, grazie please. Instead we just specify it when we're coming in straight away into this component. It's visual, we know what props we have, we know the name of them, and we don't have to go props dot something. So that's something I think as well, although we're learning great things in this React tutorial, we're deviating from what you standardly see, like props. I'm always seeing props being passed in, but then in work actually, we do use this approach. So, and he did explain all approaches at the beginning. And you know, maybe if we kept switching between them, it would confuse the whole thing. Just, you know, thinking about this course. Loving it, absolutely loving it. It's getting 5 stars from me and a rave review, that's for sure. As Max's has already got a rave review and talked about it on Twitter so many times. Called him out and he's been so nice as well. He's like, oh, thank you, I'm glad you enjoy it. He's just so nice. Cool. Yes, so our button on click is still referring to this increment function, which we don't have anymore in here, so I can't actually find it. So we need to pass that function in as a prop as well. So we'll do that. We'll say on increment up here. On increment. So we're passing in that function as a prop. So now, back in our app component, when we are passing in our props, we can say this. So we will say on increment, which is the name of the prop that we're expecting. We want to run the increment function, which is being passed through from the app now, increment, because we've hoisted it up to another level, so all of the components can access these things. I feel like there's an even better way to do this, and hopefully we go through that. So hoisting is one approach to cross component state management. There definitely is another way. I think it's user juicer. So let's see. I trust Sean. Let's go. Oh yes, of course. And then the last thing we need to do is back in our counter button here, we are expecting a prop called onIncrement. So rather than this being the increment function from the other file, that's the name of the function, increment. So here we have a const increment function that's setting the button click to button click +1. So it's just incrementing that button click value or the number of clicks constant that we have defined. So now our prop is called onIncrement and we are passing it this increment function. So what we actually need to do is in our counter button, we use this prop. That's the prop that we want to link it up to, which is going to run that function in the other component because it's being passed through as a prop. So we know where that's coming from. Super de duper. Everything is gloopa. I just made that word up. Let's keep going. Okay, so if I reload, let's see what happens. Oh, baby. Oh, sugar. Cool. So in our app.js line 8, we have some errors. So set button click, line 8, up here. Oh, so it should be set number of clicks. Of course, I changed the name. Okay, yes, I did not consider all places where that name needed to change. Should have seen that. But anyway, and let's reload. And button click is not defined. So back in our counter button, or where is this button click coming from? Line 8 app.js. So back in here, line 8 button click, because again, number of clicks. Come on, Leanne, use your peekers. Okay, so let's save. Now this should work. We've got rid of all the errors. We have some warnings. That's okay. So we can get rid of this warning here now. Counter button JS on line 1. Yes, of course. Yeah. So in our app.js, counter JS. What is that, counter button? Or yeah, counter button.js. So this is all it's talking about. We have an unused import because we're not managing the state in here anymore. So we can get rid of that save. That warning will go away. And then the other warning is just got to do with comments that I have in the file, which I don't really want to get rid of because they're handy. So down on line 23, this. So, you know, I want that there for the time being. So I'm going to just create a new terminal and git add everything, add all my changes to git. I don't even have a repo set up, but you can still add your changes and keep track of them. And then once I create my repo, I'll just push to that repo. So cool, git add everything, git commit, and this is hoisted state to parent component. That's enough, yeah. Ah, bada bing, bada boom, baby. So I just need to get my terminal back. Rather than closing that properly, I put a semicolon and that messed me up. And I also spelled component wrong, but I don't really mind about that one. So there we go, and there we go. So we've committed that code just so I have a snapshot at this moment in time. And let's continue. So now, and if we go to 10, our threshold should hit and we should get, hey, do. Congratulations, you reached 10. Never thought I'd be so happy again. Yeah, I never thought I'd be happy to say you've reached 10, but woohoo, we reached 10. Cool. So the hoisting worked. Oh, great. And we're getting into that this is something that can work, but there are better approaches. So we're going down the route that I was talking about. Great. I like Shaun. As you know, guys, I encourage stretching. I encourage moving when we're at our desks. So if I stretch, please excuse, maybe move with me. Yay. So. Cool. Yeah, so the first thing is when a component wants to access the state of another component and it's not a child of that component, we need to move the state up. We need to hoist it up to whatever parent those two components have in common. So you might have to go up a few levels if that's the case, but this so happened that the parent of both of these components was app.js. And then you can pass it down to both of those components as props. So he said this is not ideal in many situations. It's ideal in some situations, not in all. Especially when those two components are very far away. So yeah, if you have to keep on passing this up, you know, and passing it down through props, well then there's a better way. So we're use context. We use context. That's, I wasn't totally like, you know, so confident when I was saying use reducer. Use context is what we use, and use reducer is also used in state management. You take in a state and an action and then you reduce it down to a new state. So it's for like more complex use context situations, as far as I know. So you're going even higher up the level then of extrapolation when you're using use reducer, as far as I know. But yes, use context is what we use for a cross component state management, but not app wide management, as far as I know. Let's see what Shaun says. I think I'm on the right track. Cool. Sorry, I just feel the need to stretch. What was that? Okay. Cool. So now we're looking at life cycle events in React. So we'll be looking at use effect and life cycle events. So let's continue. Sorry, I just realised that me tapping my fingers would be sounding on the microphone. Cool, so he's just explaining use effect. So we're going to give it a go. So let's import use effect into our counter component. So we have our counter button here, and we are going to import use effect. Bada bing. We're going to import use effect at the top of this. So there we go. So import use effect from React, and then we can use effect. So we do that within our component declaration. It's a hook. They need to go in here. So we can just say use effect. It takes a function, or it runs a function. So then we pass it a function in here, and it returns a callback, is it called? So okay guys, so use effect is rendered when we first load the page. When we first render the page, use effect runs, and then also whenever we update the state or something, use effect will run again. So in here we'll add a console log, and just to see what's going on, show you this functionality I'm talking about. Use effect popping. Use effect is popping. Cool. So we'll know when use effect runs because we have a console statement. It's going to say use effect is popping. Oh, great. So let's go. Cool. So if we open up our browser and reload this page. Go to our console. We're already in there. Use effect. Oh, it's entertained so easily. So use effect popping. On the first initial load of the page, we see that use effect is popping. Then if we click me, on the re-render of the page, use effect gets run again. So great. Every single time we change the state, and which causes the component to re-render, use effect gets run. So bada bing, bada boom, baby. We're getting somewhere. Yeah. So also, this might seem like, yes, this is true. So this might seem like, because as we've seen, when we change the state of the component anyway, the whole component gets re-rendered. So, you know, if we were to put this console log here and say counter button re-rendered, well, we would still see this. So why do we need use effect? We're about to find out. So great. Man, I like this guy's explanations. So counter button rendered. So we will see that this still gets ran as well, because once we change the state, that also causes the component to re-render. And we see that component being re-rendered. Why do we need use effect then? Let's find out. So the first difference is that with use effect, we can control when the logic will rerun, which is very true. We can set a timeout or something. So that's helpful. Yeah, that's very true. So we can pass a second argument to use effect. Yeah. By just having a comma, which is you have the function and then you have the other stuff that you want to do. Yeah, so the second the second argument that we pass to use effect here is an array of function that tells use effect what it is dependent on. So if any of these other things change, yes, then we rerun the component again as well. Yes. So use effect will only cause our component to re-render if one or more of these values that are passed in the array changes, or if the state changes, the whole thing gets rendered again. Cool. So say, for example, if we passed in number of clicks, then we would get use effect to rerun when the number of clicks value has changed. Yeah. So Sean said that this isn't particularly exciting at the moment because this is what's happening anyway. We just have this prop coming in. That's the only prop that's being changed. So we're not seeing any difference in functionality, but probably now we're going to add some more props and then see how, you know, different things would cause either the component to re-render, like just the state changing, or else if we change something specific, how that will cause just use effect to re-render because we have it passed in this dependencies array. So great, he's explaining things really good for such a short course. I'm popping. This is great. So if we use this second dependencies array and we pass it nothing, it will never be rerun. It only reruns on the first render that time because the dependencies array is telling it when to rerun. So we should only see the console log statement for use effect popping once now. So when the component first renders, cool. And now because we've said use effect is dependent on nothing, this is effectively the same as saying only do it on component first render. Oh, baby. Yes, cool. We are learning. Love it. My brain is getting little packages of information today, and that makes me happy. Cool. Shaun, you have a gift. So he said that this is really useful. Brilliant. He said this is really useful for when you're fetching something from a backend, and that we're going to look into that later as well. Like, look at everything this guy is covering. Like, it's brilliant. Cool. So he said we'll see examples of that later on, and in situations like fetching some data from the back end, we don't want to rerun our network behavior every single time anything changes. We'd only want to send another request if something changes that's relevant to the data that we're loading, which makes perfect sense. Okay, so that's the first bit of functionality of use effect. Perfecto, selecto. Great. Yes. And the other thing that we can do is use effect can return another function. We'll call the function that we return. And use effect will call the function that we return. Okay, what else is he going to say? When our component unmounts. Yes, so once our component is finished rendering, we have a cleanup function that's called by use effect. When it's being removed from the DOM, yes, it runs. Use effect automatically runs a cleanup function on its own completion. Cool. So let's return another function in here. Return an anonymous function. Bada bing, bada boom, dee dee dee, do do do. So that shouldn't be down there. Should be up here. So like so, and sorry, I don't need the parentheses because it's all going to be on one line. So I'll say console log unmounting. So basically the component is unmounting. So unmounting, which just means it's finished rendering and it's at the end of the life cycle. It's unmounting. Yeah, so if our component has subscribed to something, it needs to unsubscribe when it's unmounted. So in order to demonstrate this, we're going to go to our congratulations message. Cool. So once we have the congratulations message, we then want them to be able to hide the message after it's been shown. Cool. Cool, so the first thing we're going to do is to go back to our app.js and we're going to create a state component, another one. So here we will create one to hide the message. So const hide message and set hide message, which is just the function to update the variable hide message, set hide message. And this is equal to use state. And we're going to initialize it this time, not with a number of 0, an initial value, but of the initial value of false. So we will say initially the message is not hidden, it's shown. And then we can switch it on and say true. Okay, yeah, we want to hide the message. Cool, yes, yes. Yeah, of course. So then we can just add a ternary operator down below. Do we want to show or hide the message? So we just use these brackets to insert our variable down into the JSX code. So we'll say hide message. So this will say if hide message is true, then we want to show null. And in the case that it's false, if hide message is false, and let's tab this in so we're all together, then we want to show the congratulations message. So once hide message is true, we won't show anything. If it's false, we show the congratulations message. Perfecto, selecto. And then we just need to add how we're going to switch this on and off. Cool. So now in our congratulations message component, we want to flesh this out a bit. So yes, we need a fragment to wrap this. So here we have our congratulations message in the case that number of clicks is greater than the threshold. So I'm greater than or equal to. So I'll move this in. We'll add an empty fragment here, which can be done like this, or we can also just actually say the word fragment. Both are valid. So let's use the word fragment just to show you something different, even though they're the same. Fragment, and I have a, well, it didn't work there, did it? Because I auto-completed. So I have a auto rename tag extension included that will automatically rename the tags as I go ahead and do something. And why doesn't it finish fragment? Anyway, it's not really that important, just to show you that we can also use a fragment. And then in here, they're both fragments. One just has the word fragment in between the fragment. So then we also want to add a button that's going to switch this behavior for us. And this button will be called hide. So to hide this message. And we need to pass that through as a prop. So we'll say on hide is coming in as the prop here. And then we need to link that prop up to the button behavior. So we'll say on click, run this on hide function that's going to be passed in from the app.js or from the parent component. Cool. Yeah. So now in on hide, we'll just literally create that component. So we'll say const on hide is going to be a function, and all it's going to do is set the hide message to the opposite of the hide message, or to true. So cool. Okay, so he actually did it in line, although it doesn't matter. He did it in line. So we have our counter button here, and then I'm going to just set on hide to on hide. Or I could just call it hide here. So I'll pass through hide as on hide to just have a bit of differentiation between the names, so you know what is linked to what. So we have hide, which is a function that's being passed through as a property, and then the property itself is called on hide. So if we go to our counter button, we can see that this should be on the congratulations message. Yes. So then if I add this here instead, and then when this gets a bit long, we can tab it down like so, just for ease of viewing, and tab these in. So then in our congratulations message, we're expecting the prop on hide, which is that function that's coming in. So perfect. So now if we go back to our browser, click this 10 times. Hey, click this 10 times. Okay, let's reload. Cool. And then yeah, the hide button popped up where the click me button was, so I accidentally clicked it very quickly. So now if I hide, the message goes away. Perfect, as expected. Lovely. Cool. So what we want to see, the whole reason we set this up is because we want to see how a component behaves when it unmounts. So after it's finished rendering. So therefore in our congratulations message in here, we will add use effect. So we will import use effect. Use effect, that'll go into the brackets, curly brackets for us, and then we can use that in our component here. So we will use effect, which takes a function. Ay, 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 mamma mia, look at what you're doing. Grazie, please. So, sorry for my terrible accents, guys. You know, just having, I don't know where they come from, to be honest, but they're in there, in the old bean. So, that's it really. And then, so in here we want to return a function. That just logs to the console. So we'll say congratulations on mounting. So console log congratulations on mounting. On mounting. Cool. Grand. And we'll add an empty array as well here so that it only renders on the first load of this component. So it doesn't load on other instances. And then we can see when this is actually going to unmount, of course, yeah. Yeah, because we're returning this function, yeah. Cool. So now if we reload the page, if we click the button 10 times, we get the hide button. And then if we click hide, we get congratulations on mounting printed to the console. So that's how we understand what useEffect is doing. So when the component first renders, we run whatever is being passed into the function itself. So here we have the console log that renders straight away when the component is first rendered. And then whatever we return happens when the component is unmounting. The array, what we pass into this array tells the component when to render, useEffect when to run, sorry. So if we pass in nothing, it will only render on the first instance of the component running because it just runs everything in that component, in that function, and we have no dependency, so it won't run again. If we pass in a dependency, it will run when that dependency changes. We can also put timeouts and stuff on it, so that's very useful. You can add timeouts to useEffect. So useEffect, very useful, and I'm starting to see in a more holistic way what it actually is and why it's useful, because I didn't know what it was, but I guess just going through this stuff makes it clearer, you know. So super. Yeah, so then useEffect can also return a function which is ran when the component is removed from the DOM or unmounted. Perfect. Yes, so there is one major pitfall with useEffect, which we did know about from Max's course already, is that you should not alter the state in a useEffect at all. You can easily cause an infinite loop. Is that what I did earlier on? Did I go and stick state into a useEffect? I don't think I did do that, but we had an infinite loop ourselves, I think earlier today or maybe yesterday. Okay, so let's do that. Let's listen to him here now. Be careful about changing the value of a state variable. So say for example we did on increment here, which is linked to our state. He said don't save it. Oh my god, it automatically saved. I just won't click the button to update the state. Okay, and it doesn't look. Let's just comment that out for a minute. Yeah, so it didn't save because I was thinking our value was still 11, so okay. Because you can easily cause an infinite loop if you were to call on increment in here, which is managing the state of the variable. So if we then removed the empty array argument as well and had on increment uncommented, this wouldn't be telling it to only run once on the first render, and it would just keep on running because it's going to call on increment, call on useEffect, call on increment, call on useEffect, and then we cause an infinite loop, which have caused many of them in my day, but I don't want to purposely cause one now, even though all we have to do is forcefully close our browser. The browser just gets caught up in the operation. So that's okay. We just know we don't mess with state inside useEffect. That's not what it's for. In fact, it is explicitly not for that. So cool. So we said there is a few situations where you do want to change state from inside a hook, but there's obviously just a specific approach. You need to be careful. You need to know the use cases. So great. You know, we shouldn't just do it higgledy-piggledy until we understand what we're doing. So great, we're learning these skills. Just make sure your hook isn't inadvertently changing data that's going to keep on making that hook fire and fire and fire and fire and cause this loop. So you need to understand why it is you're adding this state management into use effect if you are doing it like that. Ooh, already on lesson 3. We're halfway through this course. Now we're going to be looking at routing in React. So super duper, like this is great. Love it. Good man, Shaun. He looks so friendly. Oh, great. Thanks, Shaun. So cool. Great. So let's go with the routing in React. So we're going to install and set up React Router, use URL parameters and query parameters, implement not found pages, redirect with React Router, and yeah, get React routing set up. So all exciting, all delighting, wonderful. So let's keep learning. Yeah, so far all of the different things that we've done have just all been on the same URL, localhost 3000. But we're going to add routes and slugs, you know, so that we can route to different pages. And let's have a look at that now. Cool. Cool. So nearly all of the routing capabilities of React is stored in a React package, and all we need to do is install this in our terminal. Just install this package and then we can use it. So I'll close all of these PowerShells because we go mad with the terminals, and then do npm install React Router DOM. React Router DOM. Coolaboola. Great. So that's something else to note. At the beginning of Sean Wassells' course, he did say that if we wanted to use npm with our React projects, that we needed to pass the npm flag. That must also have been since updated, because we're using npm and we didn't pass any flag. I forgot to do that. So, but it looks like it's no longer necessary. So I will look into that and figure it out because that's important. So. Cool. While that's running, I'm just going to make a note of that. So, and so it is. Okay, baby. Okay, so now we'll run npm start. We already have it started. That's cool. We don't need to run it again. We just have the React Router DOM package installed now. So perfect. Okay, so okay, cool. So now we're going to add a new folder called pages, and these will be the different pages that we can route to in our application, or new folder, I should say. Sorry, so pages. And within this folder, we will create a new file and we'll call this homepage.js, and we'll also move in our counter button page, or no, we create new pages. Sorry, so new file, counter button page. Counter button page .js, and we also want a people list page. Cool. So new file, people list page .js. Perfect. So now we have all these pages created, we can implement them. So I'll just close everything else within the home page for a moment and start to create. Well, I actually closed the home page as well by accident. And then we will create our home page here. So we just do what we've always done. We export const home page, which is just equal to an arrow function. So like so. Yep. And then in here we can return a fragment. So Sean is after doing it with the curly bracket, so it looks like this will only return something small for the time being. So like this, and then we'll have our fragment that is closing itself. Great. And we want to import greeting into this file as well, because we're going to use the greeting component within here. So import greeting from greeting. And we need to go up a level because we need to come out of the pages folder to then access the greeting file or component. So perfect. Cool. So what we want to do here is just have a header that says this is the home page or home page, the home page. And then we're going to show our greeting component in here as well. So greeting, which is expecting props, so name. Let's go with Sarah. You know, any Sarahs watching out there, you're the favorite today. And also the number of messages. So how are we expecting that to come into our greeting component here? Number of messages like this. So we need to pass that in as well. So number of messages, and we'll just equal this to 11. New number, new day. So let's save. Perfect. And then we'll set up our other ones as well. So let's just get our people list page, the basic setup. So we will export const people list page. It's equal to a function, an arrow function that cool, like so. Perfect. And then we will also have, and we need a JSX expression in here or something, and maybe okay. And then you know what, I'm just going to copy this, and this should be an arrow because it is indeed an arrow function, not just equals. And then we'll do the same in our counter button page, and I will just change this to counter button page. Cool. Cool. And what we want to use in our counter button page is we're going to import a few bits here. So all the things related to the counter really. So we will import counter button. Counter button from, up a level, and counter button. Perfect. And we also want congratulations message. So import congratulations and celebrations. Congratulations message from up a level. So dot arrow, and then we can see our congratulations message component there, and we can import that. Perfect. Cool. Cool, so what we're going to do is copy and paste everything from our app.js into the counter button page, because this is sort of using all the things that we're going to need. So we're just going to copy and paste it and then change it. So from our return statement, which is here, right the way up, everything in here. So let's cut this and paste this into our home page now, into our counter button page, sorry. Yeah, so this can all go in here, and in here, rather than just having this JSX, because we have multiple lines that we want to return, rather than doing these type of brackets, we'll open up our function so we can declare more. We can have more going on in here. The curly parentheses are just if you're returning one statement. So we're returning a whole load of stuff now. So we open up our function as normal, and then we say return, and then we add these parentheses, our regular parentheses, and paste all of that in there. And clearly we didn't need to actually add that return because that's coming in the paste. So I'll actually just get rid of this as well, because the return should be down here. And then we should have all of our use state hooks and stuff like that being declared before we have our return statement. So I didn't need to paste it inside of a return because we were including stuff that also needs to go above the return there. So cool. So we're not getting any errors here, but what we can see is that we're using use state, so we're going to have to import use state. So seeing as this is from React, I put it at the top of the file, so import that's just preference. It doesn't matter, I don't think. So import React from React from, mamma mia, import React from React. And then we can also import use state like this. So use state, perfect. And we actually don't even need this anymore. That does it automatically, but sure, you know, it doesn't matter. It can also be there. Okay, yes, and we're going to remove the surrounding divs, the div and the header, and instead use a fragment. So these two also need to go, the closing tags. Perfect. Okay. Where should that be now? These should both be in one. Yeah, okay, cool. Just keep everything in line, looking pretty. Cool. And we will add a heading to this page as well. So we'll just come down here and add a H1. And this will say the counter button page. Just so we can see our different pages. And then we have our congratulations showing and our counter button showing as well. So perfect. Okay, I'm just going to tab this back. Cool. And now we're going to set up our people list page. So we will import people list in here. From upper level and people list, perfect. And we also want that array of people. I got rid of it, but that's okay. We will just define it again. And we need to add a header in here saying the people list page. So H1, the people list page. So now we're going to see how routing is working, because we're going to route to each of these different pages, which will have their own URL. So that's what we're at here. So I also need to create a constant people array, which is an array of objects. So we have our first object, which is name, string Sarah, age 20, hair color teal. She's a cool girl. Then we do a comma and we add another object down here. So we'll just do this a few times. So we have a few different people in this array. So this can be Mary, and I was going to say Dick as in Richard. So then we have 40, Mary's 40, Dick is 70. It's a pretty old-fashioned name. His hair is going to be grey. Grey? I always spell grey wrong. And my heater's just come on. Sorry guys, I'll switch that off. So good old Dick with his grey hair. And then Mary, who has brown hair. Perfect. Cool. So we have our people. And we're ready to roll. So now within our people list page, we can show our people list. People list, and we pass them this array of people. Yeah, so people, P-E-O-P-L-E, list, and we're going to pass people, and what we want to pass as the prop people is this array of people that we've created. So I'll say people array just to, you know, keep it all a bit separate so you can actually see what bits are being used for where. So our people prop is going to take in our people array that we have defined. Perfect. And then I'll close this off. Lovely. And obviously something else we could do there as well is take these from a backend. You know, we could retrieve any amount of data and loop over that once we know the structure, what it is we're expecting. So here our structure is we have name, age and hair color, but we could do a fetch request to an API, get back some data. You know, you can even test it in Postman. How does that data coming back look like? And then you can do something with that when you successfully get back your data from the server. So that's going to be brought into this, I would imagine. Cool. So now that we have all of our pages, within our pages folder, we're going to create an index.js file and then export these different pages. So index.js, cool. And then this makes it easier to import all of the pages in one go as well. Cool. So in here we will export those different pages. So we'll say export counter button page. Yes, from counter button page. And this is at the same level, so we don't need 2 dots, just 1 this time. We'll do the same for our other pages. So we have our people list page. People list page from same level. So we open up our parentheses or our quotes, sorry, single or double, doesn't matter. And then we will also export the final page there, which is our home page. So home page. And this is going to be from same level. So open up your quotes, add your // and your home page because they're all at the same level. Whereas when we were importing different things into the counter button page and stuff like that, we need the 2 dots because we need to go out of this folder, out of the pages, and then we can access these. So 2 dots is go up a level, 1 dot is at the same level. Perfecto, selecto. Cool. So now in our app.js file, we want to import things from our React Router DOM to allow us to actually route. So, sorry, my elbow just felt a bit weird. Give it a rub. Give it some love. I love you, elbow. Thank you for working for me. And then we will continue. Cool. Cool, so now in our app.js, we do not need these. We're not using them anymore. I'll leave them there for a moment. But we will import browser router. And we'll give it a new name when we import this. So we'll say, import browser router as router. So now we can refer to it in this file as just router instead of browser router. As router and route, so we want to use it in both. As router route, okay. From React Router DOM, yeah. Cool, yes. And now what we can do is import all of those different pages. So we'll import our home page, our people list page, and our counter button page. And these are all being imported from pages because we created that index file that we can just import all of those in one go from the index pages. So perfect, great. So that's why we made that index file. We just don't have to import them on 3 different separate lines. So now in our app, yeah, we've already deleted everything in here. Man, gotta stretch. think a walk is up next. So cool. So then in here, in our app, first of all, we'll just add a top level div. So we'll add a div just to house everything. Then we'll add router. We might want to add some styling to this div or something. So then we'll add our router, and this wraps the page. Then we can add our routes. So then we have route, and for the home page, we'll have the path of equal to just a /. This is normally your home route. It's /. This is the home. And then, so that's that route set up. Then we'll set up another route with the path /counter for our counter button component. So /counter, and then we want another one with /people list. Perfect. And then we can actually show which components we want to display within these routes. So within this route, what we want to display is our home route here, home page, sorry. And that can be a self-closing tag, like so. Then within our counter route, we want to show our counter button page. So counter button page, yeah, and we will just self-close that. And then for the people list, we want to show our people list page. So our people list page. And again, this can be self-closing. So brilliant, guys. We're getting our route set up. We're making progress here. And we're going swimmingly. As I always say, get on your togs. Whatever you want to swim in, come along, because we are swimming here on this 100 Days of Code challenge. So thank you so much for joining me, guys. Please do like and subscribe if you like my content, whatever, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And more people can see the videos once that YouTube algorithm gets going. So I really, really, really appreciate it. I wish you all the absolute best. Have a wonderful day. Enjoy yourselves. I'm going on a walk now. So hopefully you get to do the same at some stage in your day. So thank you for joining me. Peace out, guys.